Guys, we are live. My dog is stealing my sound. Hold on, everybody.
Uh-oh. This is where the question comes in. Who let the dogs out?
That's the problem when you got a wild man for a co-pilot. Anyway, guys, I got my co-pilot B2 here. We got Micah Babel on from what is the name of your website?
It's MicahBabel.com or Micah Babel Tennis.
MicahBabelTennis.com. Write that down right now. And former top 30 player. She reads 27 in the world. And you should go to her YouTube channel right now and subscribe. Go to Micah Babel Tennis. Go to her YouTube channel. We're going to get her over 1,000 subscribers. She is a well-hidden gem. I will tell you this. The other day, I was watching your backhand video, and the whole time I was out there thinking of your shot. I was imagining that I was you, and it went really well when I hit with 3-5 players. I thought I had it down, and then I hit with like 5-0 players, and it didn't go so well. I need more practice.
Yeah, not so much anymore. I can do a lot of things when I'm, not playing against people. Yeah.
But anyway, we got some people on. Scott Levy is here. Gordon Tanner, all the way from Oxford, is here. Candace is on. Gordon says B2 is looking superb. And so welcome. And what I wanted to talk to you tonight is what should we be copying from the pros? So first of all, tell everybody a little bit about you and your playing, and then how you decided to get into coaching, because that's pretty interesting. Somebody so good decide that you want to help sleps like us.
So how did I get into tennis? Both of my parents played. So I'm a typical coach's daughter, actually. So my dad coached in Germany. And that's kind of how I grew up. I mean, my mom and my dad took me to the local club where they played, my brother as well. I got into more organized play kind of late, to be honest, because I wasn't that good when I was younger. So when you now look at the young women and young men, 18, they started and being really good with, an age 7, 8, 9. And I was still playing basketball and doing other things. But the good news is my dad actually really always paid attention to having good technique. So that is one thing that we copied from the pros. So my backhand slice was a lot inspired by Steffi Graf's. So that was one of the things. And then turned pro when I was 16, more out of necessity, because our principal said they couldn't, he couldn't grade me anymore. My teachers couldn't grade me anymore because I was never in school anymore. And of course, I jumped at the chance. Not quite. But anyways, then I turned pro when I was 16, played until I was 26. And then had to retire because of shoulder issues. I had 4 surgeries and just couldn't keep up anymore and couldn't get back into it after such a long time off. And then I actually finished high school in Germany still. Quite honestly, didn't quite know what to do with myself, but always felt tennis is my thing. I mean, I love tennis. I loved when I played it. Loved, when I was a little kid. And friends of mine actually had played college here in the States. And one of my friends is like, hey, there's an option that if you are the assistant coach, you can go to university, you can go to classes, but you can also coach. And so I did that. Got to Tulane in New Orleans, stayed there for 2 years, and then completely lucked out with the head coach at Vanderbilt, Coach Jeff McDonald, who I think is a huge influence on my coaching, to be honest, and fell in love with coaching. And I don't think I want to do anything else, because I get to be out there and yell at people all day. In a nice way, in
the nicest way, guys. Yes. And and also I do love coaching too, and I especially love coaching the online community. Look at these people out here. They got a choice to watch Novak Djokovic. Maybe they're probably doing both. They probably got Novak Djokovic on the TV, and they're watching us. So I call them totally obsessed tennis players. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. I see Lynn is on, Paul is on. And I thought what you said was kind of interesting. Before we get into what you should be copying, I don't quite understand the trajectory here. You're like, when I was 8 or 9, I wasn't any good. And then I was 16, I was a pro. So what the heck happened from 8 or 9 to 7? I mean, that does not sound like somebody just picked up the racket at 14 or what. I mean,
no, I mean, the thing is, I mean, we talked about Anke Huber because you said you watched that video a little bit. So Anke was, I mean, she's 10 years younger than I am, 10 days, sorry. And I remember the first time at the German Junior Championships, I think I was 14 the first time I went, that I was good enough to go. And she won that. And by that time, she already, practiced like 6-7 hours a day. And I was still in school full time. There's no homeschool option in Germany. I played basketball. I was a kid. Oops, I know, sounds really weird. But I didn't play as much. And then all of a sudden at 13, 14, I started to get some attention from the, not national coaches yet, but from the state coaches. And I got into state federation practice. It's a very different system in Germany. It's not a whole lot is private initiative, because otherwise we couldn't have afforded it either. Anyways, so my first foray into better tennis was really through doubles. And then I think with 14, 15, I played more. And I think my better technique also helped me kind of leapfrog some other players that had, really paid attention to just 1 or 2 shots, and really solidify them. And all of a sudden here I am, I'm, chip and charging, I'm slicing, I'm hitting a one-handed backhand, just things that took a lot longer to develop until you can use them effectively, I think. Yeah, and then as I said, I mean, the age of 15, I started traveling. I started traveling with the national team to some things. And then, school, at some point, they said, like, I don't know who you are, after I walked into, biology class 6 weeks after the semester started. And then it was more, okay, what are you going to do, school or, tennis? And of course, me not having a clue what I was getting myself into, I'm like, woohoo, I'll turn pro.
I'll turn pro. All right, well, very cool. Byron here says, Novak who? Never heard of him. Love Pete and Micah, though. So that is so sweet. I got to put that up on the screen. I mean, that is just, that's the comment
awesome. Thank you, Byron.
of the night. Thank you for that. Okay, now we're going to get into it. So
do it.
What should you be copying from the pros? There's a couple things out there. We know the people who go online to watch YouTube, they obviously want to play like a pro. They don't want to just tap and push the ball around. But then there's coaches at the club, and I don't think that they're totally always off their rocker when they do say to a student, hey, I know you want to hit like Roger Federer, but you really shouldn't be focused on that. So don't think about that. Like who's right, who's wrong? What do you think about copying the pros? What's good, what's bad?
I don't necessarily think there's a right or wrong, but I think there's a more right for a certain combination of factors that a player brings to the table already. So I think what I always try to avoid is doing the completely outlying components of, let's say, a Rafa. I mean, you and I talked about it before a little bit, that buggy whip. That's something that only works if you have a pretty extreme grip, that only works, if you have Rafa's athleticism, if you have his perception, if you have his quickness, if you have a certain, so many things that he has, but he's an individual that I couldn't do that if I wanted to. I mean, I would break my arm, my shoulder. Or Karin Kachanov, I think with his really, really extreme full Western grip, that's not necessarily something that I would teach. If somebody comes with that grip, then we can look at it and say like, hey, is that appropriate for you? But mostly I will only get at those pretty fundamental things when somebody asks or says, hey, I'm not happy with stroke XYZ. Then I would say, okay, yeah, let's look at that and see what fits for you. But I think it's a lot of times it's just do the fundamentals that they're doing. And that's more the average of the entire group. I mean, there's still Eastern and semi-Western. Let's talk about forehands. If we have two-handed backhands, we have the continental grip on the bottom and the Eastern backhand grip on the top hand. That's the average. So I would stay with that and then let your individuality come out and you form your own you. You know, just like we talked about Steffi's forehand. And, you know, so those are things I'm not really a big fan of either pressing somebody into a certain form because that's just the hype of the day. But I'm also not a big fan of telling somebody, no, you can't do that, because there's so many things that people can do if I make it accessible to them. So it's my job to help them do that.
Well, let's have some fun here. Let's say we've got a 45-year-old player, you know, in fairly good shape, no real health issues. They're a beginner. They say, I want to learn how to play the right way. The right way to them is looking like a pro who's on the tour today. You know, they don't want to learn how to have a forehand like John Newcomb, as good as that forehand was. They want a new school forehand. So, let's pick a player. What player on tour today do you go, okay, I like almost all their fundamentals, if not all of their fundamentals, and you're going to hit the ball great, and it's going to go wonderful, and I think I can teach you that fairly easy. Who is that player that you want them to model on the forehand?
Ash Barty.
Ash Barty, okay.
Ash Barty, and I know that's always, you know, I think we can talk about that. If it's a woman, they will be fine with that. I'm hoping my clients are open-minded enough to look at that. Okay, this is just a superb and, you know, elite athlete. And she has very, to my mind, simple strokes, but again, the fundamentals are there. And then you can see like what fits for this person. So I think Ash Barty's forehand is a forehand that if I make it accessible for that client, it's a pretty darn good forehand if they end up playing that.
And she could do a lot with the ball. I like Ash Barty's forehand too. She kind of reminds a little Federer-like. Guys, comment. You know, if you are a blank canvas and were to start all over again, whose forehand would you like to copy? Who do you think would be a good idea to copy? By the way, I want to thank you all, you guys. We're up to 40 now, and that is really cool. I think that's a great accomplishment with that we're competing against the U.S. Open. So I feel pretty good. Point Fire says love and respect from Toronto. So we're having people all over the place. This is really cool. So let's dive more into Ash Barty's forehand. What grip does she have? What grip does she have?
From what I'm thinking, it's a semi-Western. It's not a super extreme grip. I mean, that's pretty much what everybody, a lot of people come to. Not necessarily if I had a completely beginner that I would say, okay, I'm sticking you into a semi-Western right away. But I think we can agree to go like between semi-Western and Eastern. And I think that allows you to play heavy topspin, that allows you to flatten it out, that allows you to hit angles. And I think if I saw that correctly, a lot of people say Federer, and he's more into an Eastern grip. So technically his is, very obviously flawless. Yeah.
And wouldn't you say that Federer's like, I would call it like an aggressive Eastern grip? It looks like he's almost at a semi-Western.
Yeah.
Certainly not near a continental, right? It's not a weak Eastern grip. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what about, and I'm not forcing you to, but if you want to get up and like show too, that's fine. But what do you like about her take back? There's all that. What do you think about? Is this the right thing? This is good. I have a former WTA player, and I'm sure you've seen the WTA forehand videos versus the Oh, good. We're gonna get. What do you think about that whole thing? And so they say the WTA versus the ATP forehand, and basically the difference is what do you agree with this? And is this a thing? What do you think?
It is a thing if we say the majority of women on the WTA tour, obviously, are having a bigger windup. They are breaking the plane. I think that's a statement. That's a fact. I'm okay with that. I do draw the line when people categorically say the ATP style forehand is better than the WTA. And that is, to me, it's comparing apples with oranges. And I think it's also not understanding really or appreciating that women learn differently, just because our bodies are differently. And to all the coaches who had a Madison Keys, a Simona Halep, who has a huge Sloane Stevens, that they all allowed them to just express their individuality with that bigger take back, right? And just kind of like, I mean, personally, if I had Madison Keys forehand, I wouldn't be sitting here. I would be in the Bahamas, because I would have made a whole lot more money. So I think it goes into, what does my player have? And by all means, if you are having a windup and you hit every single ball, 5 yards in front of your own net side, because you're, hitting everything late, by all means, shorten it up and try to, reduce the take back. But to categorically say the ATP forehand is better because men play it, that's wrong. And we're getting into pretty sexist territory too.
Yeah.
And I'm mostly alone with that, because I'm a fairly lone female in the field of tennis coaching, but talk to a lot of my female co-coaches. We're all of the same. It's not whether the technique, is it appropriate for that player? That's the right question.
Yeah. And Ash Barty, she has more of, she keeps it on the hitting side, right? She does not cross the plane. So, and one thing that's kind of interesting too is, and let me know if I'm wrong, a forehand is a forehand. Technique, coaching of technique changes. It seems to me that more and more men and women are doing the same form. It seems like it's getting more and more accepted. Yes, I mean, Sharapova had an awesome forehand, but it seems like the more the time that goes by, every coach who coaches, and most coaches, when they coach, I'm part of a junior program. We have boys, we have girls there, so they're all kind of learning the same forehand. We don't tell the ladies to hit one way and then the boys hit another way. It's like we're just teaching them how to hit. So it seems that you're seeing more and more of not crossing the plane.
Absolutely. And I think that's really because the game has gotten so much faster. And I'm going with it's Top Court. I think it's that thing where a lot of the top players now are doing. So I just watched that actually, and Leila Andy Fernandez had a drill there called the chair drill, where basically the coach put a chair behind her, feeds the ball to her, and she has to adjust because she can't back up, because you don't have time anymore to back up, right? So she has to intuitively really shorten up her take back, and she does. But then when she has enough time on a lot of balls, she is breaking the plane. So it's a situational thing. And I think just with the game getting so fast, that's how the forehand will develop naturally. And those who adjust a little bit better will probably, in 10, 15 years, we will see that style. But that's an evolution. That's not because I force you into it.
Right.
Otherwise, we would have seen the Steffi Graf forehand all over the place and the Boris Becker knee dip on the serve. So but that's something that's, okay, that was them. That's individual expression of the fundamental. And then, you have other people that do it differently.
Hey guys, I'm excited. We have 45 people on, and I would love it if you guys would go. I'm just going to put this in the comment section. Look up Micah Babel on YouTube. We got to get over 1,000 subscribers. She's a hidden gem. The reason why we're having her on, which I haven't mentioned yet, is TennisCon is coming up. And TennisCon is where we have the best coaches on the planet, and they teach you how to get better at tennis. And so be looking for that. The free tickets soon. We don't have it ready yet. It's going to be in October. You do an excellent demonstration on the backhand. And I knew from watching you hit one hand, the beautiful one-hander. When I watched you hit one ball, I thought, I want her to be part of TennisCon. And I'm like, this is, I knew you played high level. So So you got to watch her hit a ball. It's really, really cool. She gives great technique lessons on there, all kinds of different lessons. She's got a lot of videos out there. So go check that out. So now we're back to our 45-year-old. They're excited because they're going to go with the Ash Barty forehand. When you teach them to hit their first forehand, are you going to teach them to step into the ball? Are you going to teach them the open stance forehand? What are you teaching?
I know this might sound really weird, but I leave the footwork alone for a little bit.
Okay, why?
So the first thing that I teach is split step.
Okay.
And then to move toward the ball the way that you're most comfortable in. And that for most people is your turn and, because I'll give you a very specific example from my own career. And we talked about that earlier a little bit. When I was younger, our national coaches tried to push pretty much all of us into Steffi Graf's forehand. And the problem was, at some point I got so frustrated with it, and maybe that kind of led to me getting kicked out of the roster for a little bit. I don't know. I asked our coaches, like, have you seen my forehand? Have you seen my footwork? And I think that's not debatable that, Steffi Graf has still possibly the best footwork on the planet. Definitely better than mine. And so she could do things that I couldn't do. And to force a player like me then into certain movement patterns that worked for her don't make any sense. So when I'm teaching most people, we're going into, okay, where is your contact point? What is your grip? The grip informs your swing path, informs your contact point. How do I get to that contact point? And that's what I'm really working on mostly, and let them develop that feel. And a lot of players will automatically get into semi-open stance or open stance. And depending on what the ball is.
Yeah.
Of course, if I'm just, tossing the ball to them, they will step in. But they kind of do that naturally, and I don't have to teach as much. And I let them explore it a little bit more. And then I say, like, oh, by the way, that was your closed stance, or that was your open stance. But we talk more about the patterns really, rather than, okay, this is the step sequence, because then they adjust naturally, most people. And if it doesn't work, then I have to find a different way to help them get to the ball and execute a good shot.
Well, you know what? You picked up 2 subscribers.
I saw it. I'm past 990.
Point fire, and see, that's awesome. So thank you guys. That is so nice of you guys. I like that, what you're saying. And one thing that I like is that, when you really come down to it, you want your opponent to, your student to be free with their footwork and to make their own decisions. And there's so many coaches who just want to draw. Oh, you got your kitty cat.
Did that help me get more subscribers?
Yes, a cat, definitely. If we get over 1,000, we'll have the cat on and the dog on at the same time, and maybe they can fight it out. But yeah, I think it's bad to draw a line in the sand in that you should just step in or you should just go open, because the game is so dynamic that you need it's like dancing, right? You're going to need your open stance for some things, closed, semi-open. When you play free, there's lots of different footwork patterns, some that you're not even thinking about, others that you're trained on. So I like that you said that. And one thing, and let me know what you think about this, I like to call the setup, I call it the open option forehand, because you always want to set up, I would think, and you can let me know if I'm wrong, on at least a semi-open stance, because then you have the option to hit open or to step in. I think when people kind of get in trouble, when they close their stance up, they tend to close themselves off too soon, and then that locks up their hip. What do you think about that, Pro?
I would agree with that. I think, and this might be a little different because I have those discussions a lot with friends who are teaching in Germany. And it's Candace. Yes. Woohoo. It's that Candace. Okay. Now he's not happy anymore. That I think, to my mind, you can teach tactical understanding at the same time as you teach technical. And to me, tactical is understanding that, for instance, on a higher, deeper ball, if you're moving back, you're able to keep that ball in the strike zone. And then a lot of people naturally adjust with a semi-open step. They would not have the idea, or stance. They would not necessarily have the idea to then wanting to close it. But if you're just going with one thing, again, then you leave them with very few options, to be honest.
Very cool. Okay, so now we've got the setup. We got the ash bar set up. We're free. We're experimenting with our feet. You're kind of pointing out things, what they're doing. Oh, you hit.
You are allowed to mess up and learn from it.
That's right. That's good. Now, contact point and the use of both hands. Like, how are you getting them set up in their hands? Are you focused on that at all? Do you think it's important? What do you teach there with all that kind of stuff?
I still have the good old terminology of the unit turn. If your left hand is just dangling around, you'll not get your shoulder around, but focus more on the hip, because the hip really, if your hip turns, everything else kind of turns. And then you can exacerbate it, or, if somebody does it too much. I have yet to see somebody who really coils too much, to be honest. You can work on that one. But in terms of contact point, to me, that's informed by the grip. If you have a continental grip, right, it's a little bit more out to the side of you. Not that I teach a continental grip for a forehand, but if somebody comes with a continental grip, they don't want to, change the grip, then that's where your contact wants to be. If you have a heavier grip, there's the camera, there we go. If you have a semi-Western or a full Western, even, like a lot of juniors have them, you're more comfortable with a higher contact point. So anything from hip to shoulder is where we want to control it. And then it's up to your footwork to replicate your ability to catch that ball in that strike zone. And I think you see, that's why I always kind of, when somebody says, oh, I want to hit the so-and-so forehand, I'm like, well, which one do you mean? The defensive one, the approach shot forehand, the out wide cross-court angle forehand? So tennis is so situational that at the end of the day, you have to have them all, but you can only learn that when you have the fundamentals. And that's how I was taught. I mean, that's why I'm so grateful to my dad, who basically said, I don't give a rat's behind if you win or lose, but figure out the proper stuff, because the winning will come at some point.
Yeah.
And thankfully he was right, because otherwise, would have been tough.
Right. Now, this will be interesting, and we definitely don't have to agree on this. So as far as hitting and kind of using your core and rotating through the ball, I personally think too many people, this is where I don't like people copying the pros so much, because there's so many, especially still shots and things like that. If you watch Rafa in slow motion, I mean, a lot of times he's hitting, hopefully I got far enough back, he's here and he's kind of like, he's got like this showing to the ball, and it looks really cool. And then I find when you have normal people trying to do that, they're trying to like, spin their hip around and do that move. I find that they end up just over rotating, hitting a lot of mishits. The ball kind of spins and dumps, cross court, a lot of short balls, a lot of shanks, because they're really trying to exaggerate that. They watch a lot of slow motion on YouTube. They see other YouTubers teach that. I like to teach more of like, pretend like you're almost like a golfer, where the hands are kind of close together. I also like to teach, I say it's like a love story. I say it's like, the traditional love story. Forgive me if it sounds a little bit dated, but the girl is playing a little hard to get, the boys chasing, and they're together more so that they can control the ball a little better. That's the way I like to teach it. Do you think that's too constrictive, or do you teach the same thing, or do you just kind of let it happen and see what they do?
I mean, if somebody shanks the ball right, left, and center, then of course we have to fix something. I want to go 1 or 2 steps earlier in the preparation. Because if they're not loading, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, you see the footwork and the core work and the leg work, and I'm not meaning footwork per se, but the loading of the legs. That is where, you know, we talk about the kinetic chain all the time, but we don't really teach it a whole lot. So if I want somebody who really has more of an angular motion, well, then they have to put in the work with their legs. Then they have to, you know, if it's a right-hander, then they have to bring their right hip down and back, because that's how you generate those forces that, you know, will lift you and will rotate you. It's not that, you know, a Rafa or any of the guys, I mean, anybody, you see them, just Sakari, there was a video out and she has that angular momentum. There's one out just now on Andrescu, and she's basically always rotating. It's because they load so heavily with their legs. It's not because somebody taught them like, oh, you have to jump and you have to, you know, twirl. It's coming from their legs. So that, I think, is something that you can teach almost anybody, but you have to do it in smaller doses. And I think also sometimes you have to have that conversation about going like, you know, Rafa has played tennis since he was 2 years old, I don't know, and he does it 14 hours a day, and you have a job, you do other things. Let's go in smaller increments here. The one thing I think also is I had to end my career. I had to retire because of injury. And if I'm teaching these things, I want to prevent injury. That's one of my main focuses, because I think also tennis is such a fantastic sport that you can play it until you're 80, 85. And I want to be the coach that enables players to last that long. And I think you have that with great technique. I think that's why we're seeing Federer play forever. Rafa is a little bit more kaput because he's so much more extreme, I think. But still, he has great technique and is just a physical monster. But if I'm letting somebody get away with trying to copy that and they're overdoing it, I think they're steering into the injury zone pretty quickly.
Yeah,
So I want to fix that.
Good point. Yeah. I like it. So I don't know if you've noticed, we've had more people subscribe. Francis has subscribed. Let's see.
Dare I check in the middle of this if I'm there?
Jan Scott just subscribed and can't wait to learn.
I need two more.
I'm 48 and just started to play tennis at 48, which I think is great.
Yes.
I will say this, and I'm dead honest. I enjoy teaching adults more than kids, especially the online students. They really are more dedicated. They're paying their own money and they really want to learn. So
yes.
I think it's great. And I tell people who look at like Caesar, who says started playing at 48, you might look at a 12-year-old and go, oh my gosh, I wish I would have started when I was them. And I always say, no, you don't, because that hotshot 12-year-old, he's going to maybe go play college tennis, or she, and then they're going to be burned out most of the time, and they might not ever play it again. So, but people I find that start after 20, I think the older you start, and you stay with it for a year, you almost never quit. It's pretty amazing.
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. And I also think sometimes that, I hope there are no tennis parents on the call, on the live stream. Sometimes it's really difficult to deal with the parents of the kids, even if the kids really want to play. So yeah.
You are crushing it. Look at all this. Scott Levy, who's in Cincinnati.
Thank you so much, everybody. This is
Jeff
awesome.
Bashkar, who also joined us in Cincinnati. Maybe we'll do a clinic together someday. Look at all this. I'm addicted. I subscribe. This is you guys are awesome. Okay, so now this will be interesting. Another subscribe. Go subscribe to my channel too. I'm getting jealous. No, I'm just kidding. So let's see. Now we got to get to the follow through on the forehand. Then I want to talk about some different things here. We probably won't go through all the strokes like we have on the forehand, but I think a lot of people are interested in the forehand. So the follow through of our 45-year-old student, what are you teaching? Are you just letting the follow through happen? Are you trying to get them to do a certain way? What are you doing?
I know we're getting into the lag and snap territory, and I don't teach that. If, to my mind, if somebody, again, has the preparation, the loading enough, if they have the proper take back, if, they do all these things, they will naturally lay their wrist back and they will naturally come over the ball and they will have that snap. If I force somebody into that, then I think we're getting a lot into what you described with that, with the rotation, that all of a sudden we're having, all kinds of stuff that doesn't belong there because, again, they may not have the athleticism to create that. I can look at it and can see if I have things that are prior important, to that prior, but I want them to follow through. No, it's not over the right shoulder or over the left shoulder anymore. There's variations, again, depending on what kind of ball you want to hit, right? I'm not going to follow through even over the biceps if I want to hit a little dink angle. Then I finish over, my hip. Or if I'm, on my back foot throwing up a topspin lob, then I, fall through over my right shoulder. So again, it's situational. But yeah, again, I don't force people into, it's still the good old low to high, and wherever you finish, you finish. If you finish, what I do see where I am kind of being a little peculiar or really try to pay attention to is that they finish with the side of the racket facing to the outside, because I do see that every now and then that they don't. And then you block yourself because then you can't really roll over the ball.
Yeah, when you finish like this too, that's when you're going to get your tennis elbow and the ball's going to fly on you. So so do pay attention to that. What she just showed you there is huge. This is, I like to say, I call it the sideways hello to the fence. I like that.
Bye, bye, bye.
Yeah,
And then I start singing, and then everybody unsubscribes immediately. And then
no. I do like to teach this. I do like to, because what you said is, I agree. You can follow through all kinds of different heights depending on how you're trying to, what you're trying to do with the ball and how your body position is and the type of ball you're getting. So again, just like there's not one footwork, I think it's dangerous to just say there's one follow through. But I do like to tell people when the wheels are falling off, to go to home base. And to me, the home base is just the good old fashioned catch your follow through around your shoulder, just to kind of help stabilize everything. I noticed that even when Roger Federer, when he's handling a really fast serve, lots of times he will keep his both hands very close together, and he just guides it over the shoulder and catches. So I think that's the best way to kind of go, I'm missing a ton of shots. How can I get things under control? That's what I like to teach.
I think that's absolutely spot on, because go to the thing that's easiest, right? That takes you the last or the least amount of, what do I have to do here? And I think that's where you follow up anyways, if you do your good old low to high,
Yeah.
So I think, and Lynn there, I'm seeing that, like, relax the wrist on follow through, then focusing on the lag. I think then it naturally happens anyways, because that's, how your wrist works. It's a flexion. That's how your joint works.
Okay, well, we're having a great time. We're already at 38 minutes. It's amazing. Again, if you're just joining us, we got Micah Babel here. You definitely want to go subscribe to her on YouTube. She's getting a lot of subscribers tonight. She's part of our TennisCon 5 event. We're up to 5 now, which is amazing. And we have the best instructors on the planet. And when I saw your videos, I was really, really impressed. Great personality on camera, beautiful demonstrations, and very thorough, very thorough.
Now, if I can toot your horn a little bit here, Pete. I mean, thank you for doing this here. But what amazes me with you have such fantastic energy that is what draws me, because it's like, I think we're pretty much on the same page. It's like loving to teach and just, take what you get there and then help people play better tennis. I think that's what I love doing. And that's why I'm very, very honored that, you reached out to me and we're doing this.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, let's go to the serve. We'll do the serve. I want to do the serve, and then I want to talk about the approach shot, and then everybody will go watch Novak Djokovic play. First lesson, are you putting me in the continental grip, or are you just giving me the frying pan grip and say, let's just get some serve ins? What are you doing?
So I do not have as many complete beginner lessons anymore. I used to. I talk a lot about every player having a career. And I don't care if you make a living with tennis or not, but you have a career. And to me, that implies that you have a development ahead of you. And if I stifle that by giving you the wrong grip immediately, yes, in the short term, you will be more successful. But in the long term, I am stifling your growth. Now, when somebody, of course, then plays and they come back and it's like, playing a match, we might kind of compromise that, yes, I'm not giving you a complete full frying pan grip, but I also kind of don't want you to double fault the whole game away. So it'll be a compromise. The compromise will be, let's use your continental grip on your first serve, and then, okay, we inch over a little bit, but I certainly will not go and say like, okay, this is what you do. And then where's the camera? You do that.
Right.
For that, you pay me too much money. I mean, if you
Yes.
want to do that, then you want to do, maybe a lesson with somebody else, and that's perfectly fine. But I do have clients, actually recently I had one, and she's like, I wish I had I had listened to you 3 years ago, because they were, shall I say, rather stubborn about the frying pan grip and wanting that because it enabled them to get the ball going. But now they've actually gotten better, and now it's a liability. So that's what I want to prevent.
Yes. Look at this. I'm 66 and still do 200 practice tosses every night.
That is awesome. Yeah.
That is what and this is why I call them totally obsessed tennis players.
Yes.
It's like you have to keep, people say my energy or whatever, but I have to keep up with them. They're like insane, these people.
Yeah, but that's a perfect virtual cycle. I mean, I like that.
You got another subscriber. Kathleen, I've received your videos. I see you're hard at work. I will definitely try and get to analyze him this week. If I don't, I'll definitely do it next week. I have a camp coming in town really soon, but I see them there. Okay, you're just on fire tonight with your subscribers. So you got the continental grip. I agree. It's tough to change once you're used to the frying pan grip. It becomes such an easy, and it makes sense, right? I mean, people shouldn't feel bad if you don't have the continental grip. Don't feel bad, because it makes a lot more sense to put a ball in front of you and hit it than it does. Like, who would naturally do that? No one's naturally, like, if I'm like going to catch a ball, would I say, okay, catch the ball like this every time? No, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to catch the ball like that. So it makes more sense to do this and hit the ball. That's why 80% of people who play recreational tennis have the frying pan grip and do that, because you are smart. It makes more sense in the short term, as Micah is saying. But in the long term, you're not ever going to get spin on this. And you need the spin to start playing, if you want to play at a more advanced level, to start playing safely, because the spin keeps it in. And
I think it also limits your power at some point.
Yeah.
And that I think a lot of people are more after, almost, than a secure and safe serve, because at some point you just can't control it anymore. And that's, so I think it's very limiting. But I agree. I mean, it depends on what you want to get out of tennis a little bit also.
All right. So this will be an interesting little debate, or maybe we're going to be in complete agreement. We've got the continental grip, which means we're teaching some kind of spin serve. So there's basically 3 ways you can hit a ball. You can hit it flat, you can slice it, or you can hit a kick. Now, really, the reason why you're going to a continental grip is you're learning how to hit spins so you can be safer. So what serve are you teaching first? What serve do you think everybody should have? If they can only have one spin on the serve, what do you give them?
Ooh, if they can only ever have one?
If they only have one spin that they're going to master.
For the rest of their lives?
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's one spin to master, to hit their second serve first and safely. Like the one spin, you're like, okay, we got a match in 6 months. We're not hitting frying pan grips. I'm going to teach you a spin to hit it in. Now, of course, you could say, well, I'm going to develop and see what they do best and all this stuff. I'm not going to give you that out, because let's just go with the majority of people. What do you think the majority of people should learn first? And I got a strong opinion on this one.
I want to slice serve first.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Good.
You
Why?
have to pick. No, it's the. I mean, I want to say. I mean, I'm really honest. I think it's the slice serve is easier to learn. To me, for me, it's also easier to teach. So then I'm going like, so how much time am I spending with that person? I think also limiting for a kick serve a lot of times is just strength and mobility. And again, I'm getting people into territory where they, especially if they have wrong ideas about it, because I'm still hearing that, oh, I need to really arch my back. And I'm like, no, don't do that, because that's where you get injured. So I think the slice is just the safer way for me to teach it. And I think that's where I have to go back, like, what was I taught first? Although I do not stick to what I was taught, because that's 40 years ago and that's already out of the window. With that one, I might have to stick with that. So what do you do?
Oh, I wanted to have a debate, but we're just so smart, because I totally agree with you. I think it's a slice for the exact reasons that you're saying it. I mean, I say the slice serve for the following. By the way, we're up to 55 people. Novak must be blowing the opponent out. But
yeah, that's true.
This is why I say the slice serve. Number one, it's the physicality. Like when I do a demo of serving, right away, without jumping, without any warm up, I can start slicing the you-know-what out of the ball. I don't feel like I need a physical warm-up. I can throw up the ball. I don't have to jump. I don't have to challenge myself physically. All I've got to do is carve the ball, and I can make it move way across the court and off the court. And
you as a lefty, too.
Yes, yes. But I think it works just as well for, I mean, yes. First of all, Novak's slice serve the other night against Jensen Brooksby was amazing. I mean, so many times when watch Novak play, you right-handers, and look when Novak really needs a point on the ad side. His slice serve is unbelievable. And you don't have to jump. You can make it move a lot more on the court. Once you start to get good at it, I think there's just so much more variety options.
Yeah.
The kick serve, I need a warm-up to demo the kick serve. My kick serve isn't bad. My slice serve is a lot better, but my kick serve is pretty good, but I need to like probably stretch, to do a prayer or two. Like I need to feel a certain amount of physicality come into my body. I need to start feeling strong in my body before I want to demo a kick serve, because it's hard to do. And so I feel, since a lot of us are watching this over 40, over 50, over 60, you know, it becomes harder and harder to do, and you do risk more injury. I do think it takes physicality. And I think for 80 to 90% of people out there, and I'm even talking about 4 or 5 strong players, I mean, most of them just can do a kick serve by definition. Like, oh, it's hitting the ground and it's spinning the right way and it's bouncing. But I think it's like a rare player at recreational levels to where you got a kick serve and you're like, man, I can't figure this thing out. You know, I mean, most kick serves are pretty predictable. It's going to bounce up high. It's going to move a little bit, and it takes a game or two to get used to. I think with a slice serve, if anybody spends any amount of time on it, you can learn how to get it off the court. You can learn how to get it in the body. You can learn how to add a lot of different paces to the ball.
Yeah.
I think there's so many options with a slice serve.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the other thing that I'm thinking, because, you know, so many people hit a flat frying pan grip. Once you introduce your slice, it's so much tougher to return, because nobody really expects the ball to have that much movement. It's almost like when we see a lefty. I mean, how many times do I play a lefty? And even though I know that they want to slide me off the court, because I never train against them, because I never play them as much, it's always going to be so much more work that I have to do if I can figure it out at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Okay, so we're agreeing on everything. Okay, let's see. Gordon's got another. Gordon, by the way, is a legend. He wants to know. He wanted to know your opinion. I saw him. So Gordon's got 3 beautiful grass courts He sends me video. He does all our challenges. I got to talk about Gordon for a minute. I do a lot of 7-day challenges. He does them all. He doesn't miss one day. He's improved a lot, and he's all in. He wants to know what you think Emma's chances are at the U.S. Open. I saw him ask that question.
She's playing against Sabalenka now, right?
Let's see. What did he say? Let me
No,
find it.
He's waiting for the winner of Pliskova and.
It says, what can Emma beat Sakari tomorrow?
Oh, Sakari won, I'm assuming. I think she can. I mean, this is so wild that these two, and I'm going with Fernandez too, that they both believe I can do this. I mean, to me, I mean, I don't see any fear. I don't see any awe. I don't see any intimidation that they come on the court. I think they both, I don't know how. I'm thinking it has a little bit to do really with Bianca Andreescu winning it 2 years ago, and then also Iga Swiatek winning last year at the French Open, and they go like, wait a second. These dudes are playing what I'm playing now. Wait a second. They play junior Grand Slams, and I'm playing that now. So in 2 years, I can win a Grand Slam. So I think there's no respect in a good way. I think they're really respecting the game. I think they're respecting their opponents. I think the door is wide open.
I think you're right. I think they're thinking a lot of, well, it is wide open, like they're realizing, okay, well, Serena's not even playing. And when she is playing, it's getting tougher and tougher for her, the physical demands of tennis, which are only normal, no bagging on Serena there. I mean, I think she's done it long enough at the top. It's pretty amazing. Osaka, who looked like she was going to start to dominate, is having a tough time, kind of showing up consistently. So it's wide open. And I would say for Gordon, if this makes you feel any better, because Fernandez is the other superstar here, super fun to watch. But when I'm watching Emma, she seems to have it all as far as, I mean, her physical build, even though she's young, she looks more developed. She looks stronger. And when I'm watching her play, she's just blowing the ball off the court. I mean, it looks like she's not missing much. So
and I don't know, maybe I'm totally wrong, or maybe I didn't watch enough last year, but I think on the men's side as well, it's gotten so much more physical. And the German qualifier, Oscar, and I'm going to say it in German, Oscar Otte, he actually pointed that out. Because of Corona, you now had a half a year, 6, 7, 8 months where you could just work like absolute fiends on your physicality. Whereas usually you don't have that luxury because you just have an off season of, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And I think that also has something to do with that, those younger players, there were no lower level tournaments for women last year, a whole lot, which was not cool. But what do? Okay, I'm just being a monster in the weight room and on the practice court. And I think that's maybe that also has something to do with it. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean,
you also got to have a lot of respect for the pros today. I know it's easy. I've been guilty of it myself, kind of making fun and bashing, like, Roger, Novak, and Rafa, especially on the men's tour, because they've just been so dominant. Like, are they going to have to be 80 years old before they give up the mantle, and kind of bagging the young players? But I think that the coronavirus did really show how much these players love tennis, because there were so many videos of them just working out in their hotel rooms and working out in the gym and
quarantine at the Australian Open.
Yeah. I mean, making a tennis wall out of their bed. I mean, these people they love tennis. They're hungry. It is their craft. They're 100% dedicated. They know that if they're not doing the work, even in the pandemic, they know that's not an excuse.
Somebody else will.
They're in trouble. I mean, I think the pandemic, if there's anybody who was hurt the most by it, it's probably like a guy like Kyrgios, who I think he took it all off, and you can see he can't. He can barely win a match now. He's so talented, but I think everybody's gotten that much stronger. he's probably gotten more out of shape, and he can barely win matches now, as talented as he is. Because I think the game has pushed more forward, physical. It's harder to just.
Game. You
Yeah.
can't make it last. Like in Wimbledon, I think he had to withdraw because he had issues then.
Yeah.
He won a top 5 setter, and then
Yeah.
he can't do it for another 3-4 matches, which is a bummer because he is so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of, if there's one thing that's kind of tough about tennis, and I'm not saying that these players are not talented, but it does seem like, really on the tour, men's and women's, the hard work is really paying off and beating maybe people who look a little more flashy. Like you've got to earn every point out there. You can't win on drop shots and serve and volleys and cat and mouse. You've got to just grind and then add all the other stuff besides that, huh?
Yeah, I again, darn it, Pete, we don't disagree on anything. No, I think, it's fantastic for people to watch, and I think if we go with Kyrgios, it's fantastic that he knows his own mind, and he goes, okay, I'm not going to be a Rafa or whatever, and I don't want to win a Grand Slam, or I'm fine with it. But yeah, it's going to make you an entertainer. And of course, you're an entertaining athlete or athlete entertainer. I don't know which one, but I think to dominate or even get into the quarters or something of a major, you have to have it all, and you got to have the mentality that you want to be willing to put in that work day in, day out. Yeah, that's the thing that blows my mind, having been there, because I couldn't do it.
It looks brutal. It
when
looks
I
brutal.
see the workouts that they're now doing compared to what we used to do, and we were at the top of the game, I'm going like, oh, that's cute. Okay, I'm going back here.
It is impressive. Okay, so now let's finish this up. We'll have about a 5 or 6 minute talk on the mid-court and also the mindset. Lots of times you get mid-court opportunities all day long when you play the quote-unquote pushers. And I think everybody's mindset is this is where they really want to play like the pros. And especially if they have better technique than their opponent. And this is where they get so frustrated, because they look at their stroke, their opponent's stroke, who has like zero technique, and then they look at their stroke and go, well, I'm not a pro, but it's way better than what they're doing. I should just be able to blow them off the court when I get those short balls. Now, what do you think about this idea of developing really good technique and having the ability to blow somebody off the court just by hitting a bunch of winners in the midcourt? How realistic is this for a regular player?
I don't think very realistic, to be honest, because again, do you put in the time and the work? Do you put in, and let's say somebody does. Maybe this is my mindset because I couldn't blow anybody off the court. I was taught you have to win the point in 3 shots. Approach shot, and it was called an approach shot, not winner attempt. And if you hit a winner off it, fantastic, hallelujah, great, get a lollipop. But you set your approach shot up to get a first volley. If you hit a winner off of that, super fantastic, even better, but you have to put your second volley away. So that's what my mindset is, and maybe that's also what I'm teaching. I think if somebody were to say like, okay, I want to really develop that huge punishing ball, then we have to make the area from which they can hit it rather small. Because, when we define short and easy for the pros, that's about a yard off the baseline. That's short for them. So it's probably way, way closer to the service line. You have to be all the way in, with 2 feet inside the baseline. The ball has to be, again, it's a situation. And other than that, you have to have the discipline to structure the point a little bit longer until you really get your kapow. And then by all means, go all out. Because then if you miss it, then that's fine. That's the ball that we wanted. But I think sometimes we're a little too greedy and I'm amongst them, because I can't rally 20, 30 balls anymore, how I used to, in structuring the point until I got exactly what I can put away as Micah, who didn't have a huge forehand. unfortunately. So that's. Do we have a disagreement?
No, I think we have a good agreement again. I mean, I think that, when you're looking at developing ground strokes, I think it's really good to watch the pros and how they hit, and to learn topspin, I think is a great thing. And to kind of have the basic fundamentals of a pro, I think are really, really great for a ground stroke and getting a rally ball going. I think when you're talking about an approach shot, it's a different animal, and you need more variety. You need more than one way to do it. And I think lots of times the old school way of approaching is superior and going to translate better for most players, especially because most players are playing doubles out there who are watching all these online instruction videos. And the pros, again, it's their craft. It's what they do. And what's interesting is if you go to practice courts, you watch the pros get a short ball, it's lights out. They nail it almost every time. But I really see them spending a lot of time on this shot because they realize how much timing it takes. So you're going to see all the time. One of the most common drills you'll see is a coach just stand there with a bag of balls, just throwing them underhand and just having them. I mean, they keep that shot so finely tuned because there's so much that has to happen in a short amount of time that we're not appreciating. I mean, they got to see it right away. They got to get into the court. They got to prepare. They got to collect themselves and be balanced, and they got to explode into the ball and crush it. That's a lot for people to do, or just playing a couple times a week and do it consistently. So, and then you add in the idea of being nervous, of being like, I think a lot of people go, oh, I see a short ball. I know it's weak. I should be crushing this ball. And that makes you even more nervous. Because you just can't, like,
as big as this.
You shouldn't just be doing nothing with it, right? So
I didn't on that, by the way.
This is where I think you need to learn how to slice approach shots and still be able to come over the ball, but realize, see the ball and be honest with yourself. How nervous am I? How early am I seeing this ball? How high is the ball? If the ball is high and you're there early, and like Micah saying, if you're close to the service box or in, then let it fly. But if the ball is dropping, if it's tricky at all, I love a slice approach shot because it's giving you time to get in, it's staying low, and it's making your opponent hit up. So,
and ideally, I'm already in my continental grip.
Yeah, and you're already in your continental grip too.
No, I mean, tennis is it has so many facets, and that's why it's so difficult to say, like, oh, from here you should play this ball only. Everybody's different, and even if you're recognizing that that's a short ball and that could be a point finishing ball, do I get there quickly enough? Am I willing to hit just as hard or as aggressively as I would when it's 1-1 in the first set? Am I going to do that at 5-all in the third? And that's why pros spend 10 hours a day. I mean, these days it's not just 6-7 hours, it's 10 hours a day. And it's not just the time on court. They watch video, they break down statistics, they go into the weight room. I mean, that's why they're pros. That's why we watch them on TV. And that's kind of why I'm saying, when somebody, I always crack up when people, I think you could go back out on tour, and like, as a ball girl, I could. Literally, I would not win 1 point against any of the top 100 players unless they have a fly in their eye or something, because it's such a different game. And that's why it's so, again, why it's so much fun, again, to watch. Because for a while it wasn't, because it was just so done. But now you have all these different types of players, different, new personalities coming up. Not that I don't like watching the big three, but I'm excited for when they retire.
Yeah. Well, I'm not excited for when they retire, but I am happy that, Rafa wasn't there, Roger wasn't there. Could have been not the best US Open. I'd say we saw some of the best matches. The crowd has been very energetic. A lot of electricity going on. So it does make me feel good.
It's not the right word. You're right. But I think excited for new possibilities and new opportunities for other people to kind of inspire us again and kind of get us going.
Yeah. Yeah.
They will retire eventually.
So this was fantastic. Again, I'm going to put it in the comment section one more time. We had a lot of people subscribe tonight for you, which was pretty exciting. I think you probably over 1,000 now. And so there's her name. Make sure to check her out. Look for her at TennisCon 5. I'm so excited about it. We got all the usual suspects back. Plus, we're always finding new hidden gems. And really, I hope she's not a hidden gem for long because she's so good with her instruction. Definitely keep going. Keep making your videos. They're fantastic.
Thank you.
These are the real tennis fans here watching you tonight. Many of them have subscribed, and I'm sure we'll get a lot out of your videos. So thanks so much for being on. Everybody enjoy the rest of the U.S. Open tonight. I'm really flattered that so many of you came on to watch our talk, and hopefully you enjoyed it tonight. Thank you, Micah.
All righty. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.